I'm Praveen Kishore today with you with a new topic, and that is the relevance of Marxism in contemporary period. Actually, this particular topic is relevant because many in the world consider that Marxism is dead. Marxism is dead. Whereas actually it is not so, and Marxism has not lost its relevance completely, right? So I will start with the first thing, why we consider that Marxism has lost its relevance, right? Why the question that Marxism is dead or has lost its relevance in contemporary period. Contemporary period, right? Now, basically, there are certain events that are responsible for this conception, right? If I look at the history of the 20th century, then what we find, Marxism came into fore after Bolshevik revolution and establishment of communism or better to say rule of communist party, Bolshevik party in USSR in 1924. The movement started, the revolution started in 1917, and by 1924 the existing regime was, the regime of Tsar was defeated, and under the leadership of Lenin, the Communist Party established its control over Soviet Union or United States of Soviet Russia. And there onwards, this communist ideology emerged as an alternative ideology parallel and in competition with capitalist ideology. Before Bolshevik revolution, the only ideology that was prevalent in the world was that of capitalist ideology, a capitalist globalized economy. So after the successful revolution or successful outcome of the revolution, the communist ideology emerged as an alternative ideology, and this communist ideology spoke for a classless egalitarian society, right? This communist ideology further got strength. The communist ideology further got strength during the period of Great Depression. Great Depression in 1929-32 period in West USA. While the whole of the Western world, while the whole of the Western world was into recession, USSR was able to protect itself from the economic debacle as it could isolate itself with the from the not with the from the global economy. So during this period also, what you see that during this period Soviet growth and economic management was impressive, and the period of this is known as Stalin regime, right? So later on, when gradually the Western economy started tackling the issue of recession, and mainly it was due to the Keynesian economics that if you see here, then Western economy revived from 1932 onwards, and in this revival one of the significant contribution was Keynesian economics, right? Keynesian economics. And what Keynesian economics has done, it has modified capitalism with two elements, that he says state must invest in infrastructure to create employment opportunities that will increase purchasing capacity purchasing power, and therefore it will lead to growth of economy, right? And second, he talked about the deficit financing, that loans were provided to increase purchasing power, and the two had a very important contribution in the growth of the Western economy, or in the revival of the Western economy, right? So after revival, there emerged a bipolar world, right? There emerged, after revival of Western economy, world witnessed a bipolar order led by two alternative ideology, that were capitalism and communism. Capitalism and communism, right? And this period we also saw that from Second World War onwards, the Cold War era began. Cold War era began, right? So this Cold War is what is actually a conflict of two ideology, that is capitalist ideology and communist ideology, where capitalism speaks for a free market economy where state has very limited role to play in the economic domain. The communism is characterized by a centralized economy. You can say it as socialism also. There are differences, but this is not the time where we distinguish between communism and socialism. So let us take it synonymous to each other. So all the socialist countries are ruled by parties that are known as Communist Party, and communism is all about a centralized, planned economy, and it is characterized by single party dominance, and that is the Communist Party, right? Both the countries, both the wings kept on improving their military power. Their economic power was also growing parallel. But this situation altered after 1974 oil shock. Oil shock in 1974, there was abrupt rise in petroleum prices, and this was mainly due to OPEC formation, which crippled many of the economy of the world, including China and Russia. Including China and Russia. right? So in 1974 onwards, China started altering its economic strategy. Its economic strategy. Its political strategy remained intact. Political strategy remained intact, that is communist. But economic strategy, if you see, then what you find that economic strategy started moving towards a liberal capitalist economy. So one of the strong bastion of communist ideology, though not completely but partially in its economic domain, started breaking, and their capitalist ideology started penetrating. So this was seen. Chinese adoption of capitalist economy was viewed as the beginning of the fall of Marx, right? Later on, in 1989, fall of Berlin Wall occurred, and unified Germany. Earlier, Germany was divided into two countries. Before that, East Germany and West Germany. West Germany was supporter of capitalist economy. In fact, they followed the capitalist ideology, whereas the Eastern Germany, it followed the communist ideology. But the two Germany, which were bifurcated after Second World War, it got unified, and the unified Germany went for a completely market driven economy and democratic polity. So both aspects of communism fell during this period. But the most important event was, and that was also in 1989, the most important event was collapse of USSR in 1989, right? And with the fall of USSR, fall of USSR accompanied its disintegration. The fall of USSR accompanied its disintegration, and it was further followed by collapse of many East European satellite countries who were communist, right? For example, Czechoslovakia, Armenia, etc. So East European countries which were which had also become the communist, which has become communist under the influence of the Soviet Union, they also collapsed. And gradually what you find, 1990 onwards, India also entered. India also entered into the phase of LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So all these events were viewed by supporters and sympathizers of capitalism as the evidence of the end of communism, Marxism, right? And this was trumpeted from different platform. This was trumpeted from different platform in newspaper, articles, on TV channels, etc., etc. Francis Fukuyama, Francis Fukuyama, though the name is Japanese, but he was an American journalist. Right? He satirically said it is the end of the history of class struggle. It is the end of the history of class struggle. Actually, Marx had said that class struggle propels the history forward, and with the proletariat revolution, establishment of socialism, and gradually establishment of communism, the class struggle would end, and that would be the end of the history. So what Marx had said, with the proletariat revolution, and consequent establishment of socialism, and ultimately communism, a classless society would be established and that would be the end of the history. End of the history. Right? So this phrase, the end of the history, was satirically used in this, and what it said, that the whole story of the class struggle, the whole idea of the class struggle is now buried. So what it is saying, that the whole idea of the class struggle is buried. And throughout the world, we have seen decline in the influence of Marxism, decline in the influence of communism, and majority of the nations, barring a few, have gone for a global capitalist world pursuing free market economy. So this is said, with these developments, what it is said, a few bastions are left, but they would be also fall, very soon. So what they say, that these developments signify the complete loss, defeat of the very idea of Marxist communism. Marxist communism, that is, establishment of a classless society. So what they are saying, that class structure is inevitable. Class structure is inevitable. It will definitely exist, and the whole communist ideology has proved to be a utopian concept. It's not a pragmatic approach. It's not possible, right? But mind it, here there's a very important question, and that important question is, was Stalinist regime a true representative of Marxist communism, or you can say true communism? This is a very pertinent question, where we need the answer of this question. We need the answer of this question. And surprisingly, what you will find, when I am saying Stalinist regime, means not only Soviet Union, but also its East European satellites, East European satellite nations, right? The question is, was Soviet economy and polity Even in Lenin period, Lenin stayed for very few years, which was he died at the very early age of around 51, 52, and he was replaced by Stalin, and Stalin continued till the Second World War. So the question is that whether Stalin regime was the true representative of true Marxist communism or not. And this has two views. Sympathizers of capitalism agree Stalinism as truly communist, right? And that's why, and hence trumpet the collapse of communism, right? But on the other hand, there are hardcore Marxist like Leon Trotsky, and he belongs to 1930s. Leon Trotsky, who argued that Stalinism Stalinism was far from being identical to socialism or communism. I'm not differentiating between the two terms right now because it needs a lot of description. He said they are mutually exclusive. Mutually exclusive. They said it is mutually exclusive. Right? What he is trying to say that this regime was not communism. The regime was not communist. So where is the idea of its collapse or issue of its collapse? If a system has not come into existence, then how can we say that the system is collapsed? That means what? If you look at Trotsky's approach, so Trotsky is of the opinion that communism is yet to arrive. communism is yet to arrive. Right? Trotsky says, and this is very important, Trotsky explained, a nationalized economy, a nationalized planned economy needs democracy as the human body, requires oxygen, requires oxygen. Without the democratic control, without the democratic control and administration, without the democratic control and administration of the working class, a regime of nationalization and planned and planning is bound to cease, would inevitably cease, would inevitably cease to exist. And this is what is happening, this is what happened in the contemporary period, that is in 1980s. It started eroding in 1970 and finally completely eroded, collapsed in 1989. Right? So what exactly we are saying here? That hardcore Marxist, they claim that true communism or Stalinist regime, or by the regime that exists in the so-called communist countries, are actually not the representative of true Marxist communism. That means communism has not arrived. So there is no meaning of talking about its collapse or loss of its relevance. Right? And then there are certain studies that argues that Marx has not lost its relevance. Before I proceed further, I will try to make certain announcement, that is a 60 days, right now we are into the midst of the period, just 60 days away from the prelims that is to be conducted on 10th October, right? And it's a high time. Prelims is a very important thing and you all need to work hard, get support to qualify prelims, because unless you qualify prelims, there is no meaning or relevance of the men's preparation. So here it is 60 days to go for prelims, and Unacademy is starting a 2-month subscription which is for 45 days crash course prelims program in English as well as in bilingual, right? So this is costing only 15,000 rupees, a 2-month subscription. It's a 45 days crash course program in completely English and in bilingual manner, right? As you see this, it consists of practice and analysis batch. Previous year questions would be covered. 1 year current affairs would be rounded up, and you will have access to all the crash courses, means for GS completely, and you will also have access to practice session, right? So you must go for it and enroll now. The only thing from my side is suggested that if you use NICE IAS as a referral code, NICEIAS, all in capital, then you are going to get a 10% discount on the subscription charges. That means your subscription charge would be only 13,500 rupees. So don't forget to use NICE IAS referral code while subscribing this course. Now we have a carnival also, and that is tomorrow on 17th, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. 17th August, right? And in this carnival, you will have access to top educators of the country. There are 400 plus classes, 5,000 plus MCQ and previous year questions discussion. UPSC aspirants as attending, there would be around 1 lakh, and 20 plus marathon sessions and crash courses. So all these things will be there. So don't miss this. Do attend, and while accessing the carnival also, special classes carnival that is freely available to you, you can also use NICE IAS referral code to unlock the program, right? So this 2 announcement is there. That is very important announcement, and that you can take help of, benefit of that. Now we come back to our this relevance of Marxism in contemporary period, right? So how can we prove whether relevance of Marx is there or not? So what are the salient points of Marxist theory? Or salient features of Marxist theory, right? The first, that is a very important theory that Marx talked about capitalism, that progress of capitalism would be characterized by falling tendency of rate of profit. The progress of capitalism would accompany swelling of reserve army, that is unemployment in workforce, right? So with the progress of capitalism, the capacity of the capitalist economy to employ people decreases, and therefore there is a swelling in the unemployment or unemployed workforce. He also says that along with this, the purchasing power of masses reduces, right? Which is also detrimental for the functioning of capitalism, right? To increase profit, capitalist would increase the working hour of proletariats. That would put a lot of pressure on the workers. So on the one hand, there are people who are unemployed, whereas on the other hand, there are people who have this employment, but they are under great pressure as their working hour is enormous, right? Fifth, the another thing that he had said with the onward journey of capitalism, concentration and centralization of capital would take place. Centralization and concentration of capital would take place. Concentration means elimination of petite bourgeois, proletariatization, and pauperization of proletariats. In short and simple, this meaning wealth would be in the hand of a few capitalists, and most of the people would be proletariat, and there would be wide gap between capitalists and proletariats. Wide gap between proletariats and capitalists. So he is talking about a relative poverty of proletariats. Centralization of capital means merger of companies into one, right? So these are the prime features of, salient features of the Marxist description of the onward journey of capitalism that would finally lead to a condition that is mature for the proletariat revolution. right? Now, whether these are functional or not, these things are happening or not, this can be done only on the basis of certain empirical studies, right? In 1987, Mark Glick wrote a book, and the name of the book is The Current Crisis. The Current Crisis. And in this book, he has described about the features or the features of the capitalist world, mainly USA, between 1899 and 1983. So what has happened between 1899 and 1983 in the US economy and even in the Western world? He has collected data on that, and based on those data, he had arrived at certain conclusion. So what was the findings of Glick? The first finding is average rate of profit which was 22% in 1899 has come down to 10% in 1983. The decline has not always been progressive, but overall there has come time when the rate of profit has gone up from the previous position, but again it has come down, right? Secondly, what he says that in early 20th century, the period of recession or the span of recession was less than the span of economic boom. Capitalism itself recognizes that boom, economic prosperity, and economic recession are its cycle. Capitalism progresses, moves forward in this cycle, right? That means there would be a phase of economic boom, it will be followed by economic recession, and the recession would be revived, the economy would be revived, and again the economy would enter into the growth phase. So this is cycle. These are the inevitable cycles of capitalism. What we are saying that boom and recession are inevitable cycle of capitalism, right? But here there is a different observation. The observation is in early 20th century, the period of recession was less. Means in a whole cycle, the period that witnessed recession, the period was small and the boom phase was large. But gradually, the span of recession or the period of recession had progressively increased and boom phase has constricted. And presently what we find that the boom phase is comparatively very small in comparison to the period of recession. Means the difficult period are progressively increasing. The difficult period are progressively increasing, right? So that is also a clear indication of the detrimental decline of capitalism, right? The third observation in this book is that 9/10 of the US economy is in the hand of 500 top companies, right? And out of them, 80% is concentrated in the hand of top 100 companies, right? And you see that there had been Wall Street movement, which says that policies should not be made for 1% of people. Means the policy of US should not be guided by the stock market. Rather, it should be by for the masses. Similarly, what you find that Oxfam report on India says 70% of wealth is concentrated in the hand of 1% people. 1% people. So all these are what? These are describing the trend that how wealth is getting concentrated into the hands of a few people. Then it is talking about the indebtedness data on indebtedness. And here they are giving, he has sought the example of Japan. And what it says, for every 100 yen earned in Japan, Japanese owe 170 yen, right? So this is a clear indication of the decline in the purchasing power of the people, because most of the income, majority income used for repayment of debt and debt servicing charges, right? Even in USA, he cites that for every dollar earned, US citizen owe a dollar and cent, 5 cent and 5 cents. So here also, this is called EMI economy also, that most of your income goes to repayment of EMI, and that EMI is what? It consists of the debt servicing charges also. You have to pay interest on that, right? He also cites the re-emergence of mass employment in many European countries. For example, he says that there are about 7% unemployment rate in most of the European countries. Most of the European countries, right? So what we are finding here, and the last, is a very important thing that he says. While millions of unemployed languish in condition of enforced leisure, enforced leisure, other millions with good luck, with the good luck, who remain at work, find themselves themselves subjected to ever increasing pressures to work long hours with lower pay and worse conditions and worse condition. And this is exerting a lot of pressure on them that is detrimental to the psychic and nervous order balance of the person, right? You can cite the example of increasing psychiatric and increasing incidences of psychiatric and neurotic disorder in developed economies, right? So what we are finding here, that Glick's book says that what Marx had predicted appears to be true. Rate of profit is going down, pauperization of proletariat is increasing, indebtedness of proletariat is increasing, unemployment is increasing, right? The long working hour is putting a lot of pressure on the mind of the people, nervous balance of the people, etc., etc. So when all these features, when all these are occurring, how can we say? So these indicate that rather than losing significance, Marxist prediction is appearing to be true, is appearing to be true. And this is saying that sooner or later, rate of profit would tend to zero. And at this time, polarization of society in two homogeneous class would occur, right? And this is the period, this is the time that he said as mature conditions of proletariat revolution. So what you see here, and you will realize that most of the communist movements in the world, the movements which were said to be successful, are mainly related to the agrarian economy, right? Which Marx said that proletariat revolution would occur only after the capitalism is fully established. The capitalism is fully established, right? So in conclusion, what we are saying, that for Trotsky and Mark Glick, the conditions for proletariat revolution is maturing, and therefore communism is arriving. So what we are saying here, that Marx has not lost its relevance, rather Marxist relevance is still pertinent. That communism is yet to arrive. This is a very academic description of the relevance of Marxism. We can see the relevance of Marxism from certain other angle also. Right? Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill had also stated that in the long run, capitalism leads to, tends to concentration of wealth in a few hands. Right? So even the supporter of capitalists, strong capitalist supporters, sympathizer, they also acknowledge this limit or evil of the contradiction of capitalism. Right? If you do a close analysis, then what you will find, capitalism has all the tool to increase wealth, but no mechanism to distribute it. And that's what we see here, that it tends to concentration of capital. Right? Before Marx, everything associated with capitalism was applauded, as if this mode of production does not have any of its limitations. Right? It was Marx who first identified the evils of capitalism and put the abject poverty or pathetic condition of workers on the world platform. Otherwise, before that, everything were described as they are very happy with it. Right? So Marx is a very important figure who identified the evils of capitalism. Right? The Marxist mobilization, the collective mobilization of workers were centered around Marxist ideology, right? And this mobilization put pressure on capitalist state to move from laissez-faire to welfare state, right? That means capitalists came under pressure due to Marxist mobilization to enact laws and provisions that would provide security, various types of security to the workers and carry on the welfare measures. So one of the most important contribution of Marxist theory is expedition in the growth of acceleration in the growth of the welfare state, right? So Marxian theory is the central axis that mobilizes the workers, and therefore it puts pressure on the state and capital to not take them for granted, right? So whenever capitalism would turn autocratic, Marxism would be used to mobilize workers, right? That means Marxism, in conclusion, what we said, Marxism has not lost its relevance completely, right? So I hope I have given you some insight into this particular context, and what we are finding that it would be immature to write off Marx in the contemporary world. It is still relevant, and we have to have a policy of wait and watch to see whether class struggle would lead to the proletariat revolution and the establishment of communism or not. Thank you. I think this session would be quite helpful to you in understanding the relevance of Marx in contemporary period. Thank you.